Okay, now we're going to move on to absolute value equations. And you'll know that it's an absolute value equation if it has an equal sign and if a portion of the equation has absolute value symbols around a part of it, around some kind of expression or term. Okay, so you can see here what we have is the absolute value of 9x plus 5, then plus 7 is equal to 4. Now I want to remind you what absolute value symbols mean if you don't quite remember. It means that the whatever is on the inside of it, like for example the absolute value of negative 5, what you have to do is you have to make it the positive number. So the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. Now, if I were to say what is the absolute value of 5, the answer would also be 5. So when you have an absolute value, the answer is always the positive version of whatever is inside of here. So an absolute value has to be positive. And I want to show you something that cannot be true. If somebody said that the absolute value of x was equal to negative 4, this cannot be true. There is no solution to this because we can't have an absolute value equal to a negative number. You have to remember that, because when you're solving absolute value equations, if you ever get to a point where the equation says that the absolute value of something is equal to a negative number, it's automatically no solution. You can stop the work and just say no solution. Okay? So let's do this example here. One of the things that you want to do when you're solving an absolute value equation is you want the absolute value expression to be by itself on one side of the equal sign. Well, this is not by itself. This has a plus 7 with it. So we have to get rid of the plus 7 so that the absolute value part is by itself. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. And here's what we get. The absolute value of 9x plus 5 is equal to, this cancels, and then this is 4 minus 7 is negative 3. Uh-oh, this is exactly what I told you we can't have. This says that the absolute value of 9x plus 5 is equal to negative 3, a negative value. That's impossible. That can't happen. And so we're going to stop solving this completely, and we're going to say that there is no solution, and then we're going to move on to the next question. All right, let's try this one here. So we have the absolute value of 4x plus 7 plus 5 is equal to 14. Now remember what I said. We cannot have this plus 5 here. We have to have the absolute value part by itself. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. So we're going to carry this down. Absolute value of 4x plus 7. 5 minus 5 is 0. That cancels. Equals 14 minus 5 is 9. This is okay. We can have the absolute value equal to a positive 9 because this is a positive number. We can now continue. So this is where it becomes a little weird. Most absolute value solutions can have to be split up into two parts. See, what this is saying is that the absolute value of 4x plus 7 is equal to positive 9. Well, I want to remind you that we could get a 9 if we had the absolute value of 9. That would be equal to 9. And if we had an absolute value of negative 9, that would also be equal to 9. So, if 4x plus 7 is 9, then the absolute value of 4x plus 7 would be 9. But if 4x plus 7 was negative 9, it would also equal 9. So 4x plus 7 can equal 9, or 4x plus 7 can equal negative 9. So when you get to this part of the equation where one side is just the absolute value symbol, what you're going to do is you're going to drop the absolute value symbols, and you're going to write what's inside. You're going to put an equals, and you're going to put whatever positive number is over here. 4x plus 7 is equal to 9. And then completely separately, as a separate solution, you're going to write what's inside again, 4x plus 7 equals, and you're going to put the negative version of this number. So we're going to put negative 9. So we know that 4x plus 7 can equal 9, or 4x plus 7 can equal negative 9. And now we're just going to solve both of them separately as two separate equations. So here we're going to minus 7, and we get 4x is equal to 9 minus 7 is 2, divided by 4 on both sides. We get x is equal to 2/4, which is the same thing as 1/2. So we're done with that one. One solution is that x is equal to 1/2. That is one of our solutions. Then we're going to do this one over here. We're going to subtract 7 from both sides again, and we're going to get 4x is equal to negative 9 minus 7 is negative 16. And if we now divide by 4 on both sides, we get x is equal to negative 4, and that is our other solution. And so this absolute value function winds up having two solutions, 1/2 and negative 4. We can check to make sure they're correct. We can put 1/2 in for x. 4 times 1/2, or half of 4, is 2. 2 plus 7 is 9. The absolute value of 9 is 9, plus 5 is 14. We can also try it with negative 4. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. Negative 16 plus 7 is negative 9. The absolute value of negative 9 is positive 9, plus 5 is 14, and you can see that that is also correct. So many absolute value equations that do have solutions wind up having two solutions.